Assassin's Creed is a popular franchise consisting of numerous titles. As the time flew by, the game evolved. Some critics might say that it didn't evolve enough, while others claim that the series lost its identity with the recent titles. So let's talk about the franchise history before I will jump into origins. First Assassin's Creed was released back in 2007 to mostly positive reviews. What some people might not know is the fact that first iteration of this game were actually part of other franchise, Prince of Persia, a series that at the time was very popular but started to slowly decline with each consecutive release. The plot was supposed to focus on a female assassin that would rescue and escort the young prince. Later during the production, the game grew to become its own project and was given a name Assassin's Creed. So how was it? I really liked the first AC. The game had a very big world. I remember being in awe of 3 main cities that players got to explore. Quests were repeatable, that's a fact. But in general, I think that for its time, Assassin's Creed was a very good game. And it's probably the only one in this series that had an intriguing modern-day storyline. When it comes to our assassin, Altair, he wasn't fleshed that well as a character, but the plot of his timeline was fine. Then, in 2009, Ubisoft gave us Assassin's Creed 2. This game was an evolution of everything we've got in the first title. It was bigger, better, more diverse in terms of gameplay, and in general it was a natural progression of the ideas started in 2007. Desmond's story got slowly more convoluted, but was still coherent. The main protagonist of the release though, Ezio Auditore da Firenze, is arguably the most liked and fleshed out assassin in the series. Probably because his story was continued in the next 2 games, but still, the amount of content we got was astounding. The cities of Florence and especially Venice were a true work of art. Players met Ezio in his youth and got to experience his journey to become an assassin. And it wasn't fast, it was gradual. One target after another, the young protagonist became more of a man and less of a boy. It was great. The only thing that baffles me to this day is how they choose to have final boss fight being a fist fight with Pope. Really, what the hell? Assassin's Creed 2 also gave us a masterpiece in form of its soundtrack, mainly Ezio's family theme, a theme that is used and redone in newer releases. And let me just mention here that from 2009 to 2015, Ubisoft released at least 1 AC game each year. In 2010, we got Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, a continuation of Ezio's story. This time, players got to explore Rome. Brotherhood introduced the mechanic of recruiting new assassins. It also improved some aspects of gameplay. The story mainly focused on Ezio fighting with the Borgia family. It also gave us some more information about Altair. I have to say that I'm on the fence with this game. I know that fanbase keeps Brotherhood in a very high regard. The story here is solid, it's engaging, dramatic, but it's one of my least favorite releases from the series. Maybe I need to replay this one, but I remember that when I played Brotherhood many years ago, it failed to grip me the same way other games of the franchise did. The only plotline that I remember well from this installment is Christina's and Ezio's tragic love story. This thing was well told and powerful. After the success of Brotherhood, Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed Revelations back in 2011. This is the time when fans really started to notice the stagnation in the series. Not much has changed in terms of gameplay. This release was pretty much a new zones, new story, old mechanics, old graphics. This time, noticeably older and more grizzled Ezio ventured into Constantinople. I feel like the game was a little bit darker in terms of atmosphere. Revelations also got lower scores from critics, mainly because of lack of new features. And this is the part where I am going to disagree with the majority, because I loved Revelations. Not because of gameplay. It's true that it wasn't anything new, but the story that I had experienced in this game gripped me the most out of all Assassin's Creed games that I have played to this day. Revelations finally fleshed out the character of Altair, told us about his tragic story after the events from the first game. It was also a perfect send-off for Ezio. The last hour of gameplay is really heavy on the narrative, and it's the most memorable part of the AC franchise that I have experienced. Also, it tried to finally give a meaning to all those modern day events that happened outside of Animus. We finally learned what precursors were trying to achieve and what are the stakes for the whole world. It was great. The ending had me so hyped for the next installment. And for some reason, I still remember the words of Clay Kaczmarek about humans being a sum of their memories, and that in order to preserve a memory of a person, we need to remember their stories. Let's just say that the ending of this game just hit me right in my soft spot.
Here it comes! What is that? What's going on? This is the end, Desmond. Scheduled for deletion. What are you doing? What is a man but the sum of his memories? We are the stories we live, the tales we tell ourselves. Don't do this. I'm saving you, idiot! Go!
So after Revelations, I was hyped for Assassin's Creed 3. I kept the hype so high thanks to great trailers made by Ubisoft, both cinematic one and the story gameplay trailer. Assassin's Creed 3 is a very divisive game. It's set during American Revolutionary War. The introduction part of the game drags for hours, just like this intro. I think that Connor, our new assassin, was unlikable. He was very bitter, naive in a way that he thought that he alone can make a change in the world around, a trait that was used against him. Wherever Connor went, things got serious. And don't get me wrong, I think that there should be different protagonists with different character traits in games. I'm just saying that I didn't like Connor, therefore it was hard for me to immerse in his story. AC3 also finished the story of Desmond, our outside of Animus protagonist. Desmond, sacrificing himself to save humanity, left an open ending in terms of what writers can do with the story next. It's safe to say that I didn't like Assassin's Creed 3 story. It's too melancholic and bitter for my taste. The game had a really good soundtrack though, and introduced one feature that would define the next title in the series: naval battles.
Even those men you sought to save have turned their backs on you. Yet you fight. You resist. Why? Because no one else will.
In 2013, Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, one of the best games in the series, with a cast of very diverse and likable characters, great protagonist, Edward Kenway, huge open world, and way too many chests to collect if you are a completionist. Black Flag was a great game overall, sailing through open seas, fighting in great naval battles, exploring uncharted islands. It was all great and had almost nothing to do with Assassin's Creed. This is a great game about pirates, but poor game about Assassin. Edward's story was kind of forced to align with Assassin's agenda. He grows as a character, and close to the end of the story actually starts to care about war against Templars, greater good, etc., instead of getting rich. It's okay, I guess, but in my opinion the story pretends to be about assassins, while it really is about pirates. Modern day story started to get very convoluted. I'm just gonna say that I liked it gameplay wise, exploring these corpo spaces in first person, hacking workers' computers. It was refreshing and I enjoyed it. But I stopped caring about the plot of modern day, since it was clear that the studio doesn't know where they want to go with the storyline. So to sum up Black Flag, great game, great pirate story, poor justification for being an Assassin's Creed game. Now, in 2014 the stakes were raised, because we got two main Assassin's Creed games. Let's start with AC Rogue. Plot focused on Shay, an assassin that became Templar. So we finally got to experience the story from the other point of view. Gameplay wise, it's a reskin of Black Flag with a new zone to explore. It was decent, but felt more like standalone expansion than actual new release. When it comes to Unity, it was hyped so much that when the game released in an acceptable state, it quickly became a meme. It was also a big hit to Ubisoft's credibility as a game developer. I have played Unity 2 years ago, and at that time the game ran well and there were close to no bugs. This installment takes place during French Revolution. Players will get to explore Paris, and I have to admit, the way Ubisoft presented the city, consumed by chaos, impressed me so much. Paris was beautiful, the big crowds were impressive. When it comes to gameplay, it was fine, but many people noticed the lack of any new feature while losing the best part of previous release, the boats. We got the addition of co-op missions, a feature that was okay but failed to impress. The new assassin, Arno Dorian, felt bland, at least in my eyes. We are served another story about vengeance and joining Brotherhood. Big part of the plot focuses on Arno's relationship with Elise, a daughter of a Templar. It definitely has its moments, but after finishing the game, I haven't got that feeling of wow, that was some awesome story. It was just fine. A year after Unity, players got to experience Syndicate, set in Victorian era London. This time, we got two assassins to play as, the Fry twins, Jacob and Evie. They presented clashing personalities and points of view, Jacob being more interested in taking over gangs of London, while Evie was dedicated into Assassin's cause. Again, London made by Ubisoft was impressive. All the landmarks were recreated with much care and a lot of details. What seemed to lack the care though was gameplay. It was very repetitive. The city, while being beautiful, consisted mostly of loot chests with hollow treasures that, after a while, were meaningless, since the player already got a lot of resources. There was a noticeable lack of animation variety. Finishers looked the same. Parkour was trivialized thanks to use of grappling hook. It was a forgettable experience. It didn't sell that well, and that's what finally made Ubisoft to put a stop to yearly Assassin's Creed releases. With Origins, they promised to take their time, to reinvent parts of the game, to make it feel special and distinct. That's why it was released in 2017. Wow, that took longer than what I had planned for this section. To summarize, I like Assassin's Creed series. I am fairly invested in the franchise, but it's not like I'm waiting for each new release. As long as the games are good, I can enjoy them, despite their repetitiveness, flaws and stagnating gameplay. Origins was marketed as an entry that will change some mechanics in the game. It was supposed to be a breath of fresh air in terms of a new fighting system. And I was always curious how ancient Egypt would look like in a big budget gaming world. So this is my review of Assassin's Creed Origins. This review is based on 78 hours of total playtime, finishing the base game and both DLCs, as well as accessing the free upgrades that were released in the meantime. 100% completion rate for the in-game achievement, that consists of base game and DLC achievements. I have finished the game on hard difficulty. As I said before, I have finished all previous major Assassin's Creed releases, so I will use them as points of reference. And I have completed 169 quests. The main story is set in ancient Egypt. It starts around the year 49 BC, during the reign of King Ptolemy XIII. It is also the time of Cleopatra's imminent rise to power and methodical incursions of Roman soldiers into Egypt's grounds. They are of course led by no other than Julius Caesar. So it is a busy period of time, full of political intrigues and unease for the common folk. Country is divided between Greeks, Romans and Egyptians, and the tensions based on race are rising. The setting is just ripe of potential for a gripping story.
We will find you.
We meet Bayek, our protagonist, at probably the lowest point of his life. He is consumed with vengeance after a group of masked men, calling themselves an Order of the Ancients, kill his son in front of his eyes. The plot, right away, points out that this will be a major story, as in the first scene Bayek brutally murders one of the people he believes to be responsible for his son's death. Later, in the introductory part of the game, players are going to experience throwbacks as to what exactly happened, so they are on the same page as Bayek. Those couple of first scenes also highlight a great work done by Bayek's voice actor, Abubakar Salim. Our protagonist is madly furious. When his son's life is threatened in the flashbacks, you can hear desperation in his voice. The level of emotions delivered through our main character helps cement the bond between player and Bayek. It's top notch.
To nobody!
And here is your nobody!
So who exactly is Bayek at the moment we meet him? He is a Magi, a protector of Egypt and all its residents. Only a handful of Magi's are left, so his position is a revered one. He's also a husband. His wife, Aya, is consumed by vengeance the same way he is, maybe even more. And she's not a pushover. Aya is a warrior, well, maybe more of a rogue. She can handle herself and she can efficiently fight. When we meet her, it's revealed that she already had killed two people the couple suspects of killing Kemu, their son. We can see how their relationship is still a passionate one. They care deeply about each other, but their main focus is avenging the death of Kemu. I like that the story puts some focus on their relation and does not only chase action and killing. It's also setting some sort of a narrative payoff at the end. The main story will gradually unveil through completion of main missions. In a vague terms, you can describe it as figuring out who are the masked figures and then killing them. The main story is solid. I really like how Ubisoft approached deaths of our targets. You see, in each AC game, when you killed a target, there was usually some sort of a conversation between the target and assassin. Usually, it looked like it was happening somewhere inside Animus' library of files. Some of those conversations were really interesting. They could reveal the motivation of our targets. Sometimes they could even make player feel guilty, trying to justify decisions made by the killed Templar. I always liked that part, even if it was unrealistic. How Origins approach those scenes? It is very clever. Bayek is a very spiritual man. He believes in the whole mythos of Egyptian gods, so when he kills a target, he sends him or her into the land of Duat, a mythological land of the dead. The scenes where Bayek talks to his victims are using a heavy symbolism as to what foul deeds those victims did or what they represented in life. It allows Ubisoft's writers to add some artistry into those scenes, and I enjoyed it very much.
The gods, driven by the herdsman's whip. You are one of them, Bayek. You are a cow!
It is will that drives me, not fear.
Oh, yes? And who passes the whip over your back? Who demands that you stay in your car with my death?
I have my gods. Now face yours.
The one thing that, in my opinion, could be handled better in Origins are side characters. Usually we meet someone, do a quest for him or her, then the plot moves forward and that person is gonna have maybe one or two side quests. I did every side quest I saw on the map, but if I met a certain character at my 10th hour of playtime, did two quests for that person and then met them again at my 15th hour, my brain might not click right away who that is. I feel like side characters were treated better in previous installations of the franchise, mainly because they were recurring and we met them more times. Since we are already talking about side missions, let's talk more about them. Ubisoft took notice of criticism pointed at previous AC games. Usually, most of the activities and quests were very simple. Find a chest, overhear a conversation, bring this, bring that, kill this person. When a player learned the scheme, there were nothing that could surprise him or her. Side quests in Origins are constructed in a better way. First of all, they are usually containing a couple of steps or phases needed for the completion of a quest. Let's give an example. There is a woman. She asks you to retrieve goods that were stolen from her. You do that. Then when you come back, she reveals that it's actually an ongoing process and she's being intimidated and bullied for some time in order to give out her stall at the market. So then you go to deal with the bullies. Here, this is a quest with two phases. While it's nothing new in gaming industry, it's definitely a nice addition to Assassin's Creed's questing experience. Those tasks can vary. It's not always the same thing, although dealing with some bad guys almost 100% of the time means killing them. Some of the quests have a really interesting story to tell. Some of them can even surprise you with a twist. The rewards are just standard. Experience, some cash, and an item from time to time. Sometimes a quest will unlock another quest once you complete it, so you have those small storylines that you can unlock. Also, Bayek being a magi is a clever way to explain why he's doing those sometimes menial tasks, or why he is stopping wherever he sees someone crying on the streets. A magi is supposed to serve people of Egypt, so that is his responsibility. Easy yet effective. One criticism though. While the game slowly tries to lean more into an RPG genre, the side quests still feel lacking in terms of depth. You see, Bayek gets a task. This time, a woman tells him that a guard beat her husband. She gives him some sub-story and that's enough for our hero to place a death sentence on that guard. What about two sides of the story? It's too simplified. And yes, it happens that some stories prove that quest giver is actually a bad person and Bayek has to reflect on his goals. Too many times though, it's just that simple version of go kill. Throughout the story we play as three characters. Bayek takes the center as a lead of the main story, but for a short periods of time we play as his wife, Aya. There is also a modern day part of the story where we control Laila Hassan. She is an Egyptian operator of Abstergo Industries and is sent to retrieve data from some old cavern. There she finds Bayek's remains and goes against his supervisor's orders. She connects herself to Bayek's memories and that's how we access the main story of the game. How will this story unfold? I am not going to describe it because I never cared about Laila's story, even though the game tried to make me care. Why I am so harsh to Laila? Because she just shows a bigger problem that was always looming over this franchise since its conception. The modern day story is a hindrance for the actual game story, which is the one that's happening inside the Animus. The moments when we are pulled out to reality, usually after experiencing some crucial memories of an assassin, are like being crudely waked up and slapped to the face after a beautiful dream. You want to finish up the dream, not to deal with the grim reality. At least with Desmond we had this one character that we were attached to through each games. His story was coherent, well, to some point at least. Let's try to remember the first Assassin's Creed. Desmond's story was more engaging from narrative standpoint than what happened in Animus. You had this Warren Vidic, an insidious character, everything happening in some sort of a mysterious lab. There were so many questions to ask, and there was Lucy, the one that cared for you and helped you to understand it bit by bit. I cared for that story so much and I thought that it will lead to some cool reveals in the future. Then it got more and more convoluted, as we just could see that the writers were not exactly sure what to do or which narration to choose. But let's say that Desmond's story had a beginning, middle and an end. His demise, at least in my opinion, is the point where everything went downhill plot-wise. Black Flag's modern day story was great for me gameplay-wise. It was so interesting to visit this corporate office, hack other people's computers, get some information. The way that corporate Abstergo officially tried to use Edward's memories to create some sort of pirate digital Disneyland inside Animus was great. And it was fun to see how they tried to make everything marketable, suitable for the biggest customer base. It was like developers were playing on the nose of corporate part of Ubisoft, which was becoming more and more focused on money, not the product.
This is all yours, so sit back, relax, and find us some good footage. If you need any hints or tips, the Animus is loaded with tutorial programs, so you'll have no problems. and I'll check in on you later. Happy pirating.
But I'm getting carried away. We were talking about plot. Narratively, Black Flag didn't make any substantial improvements in the general story arc. It introduced the character of Sage, who was then killed, and I'm not sure if he was even mentioned in any later parts of the franchise. Then in Rogue, we were presented with another modern protagonist. In Unity and Syndicate, developers even resigned from a gameplay, modern day parts, and just show some cinematics. And all of those things cannot establish any meaningful narrative for Out of Animus storyline. So I am really sorry, but it seems like for the past couple of installments, writers haven't got any idea about what to do with the modern day story, so I'm not going to care about it either. There is a way out though. If Ubisoft is gonna stick to Layla, make her a new Desmond in terms of a character that players might finally find a connection with, then choose a story arc they will follow in modern day, then this plot might actually be finally salvaged. Let's come back to Origins. When Bayek discovers a precursor ruins in one of the tombs, he can access a message. An unknown voice says that even though Desmond undid the end of the world that was supposed to happen in 2012, the timeline is relentless and a new world's end is going to happen in the future. So they already pretty much thrown away all of the Desmond story. And I have to admit, at first I was baffled by this decision. But later, I thought that maybe this will be the main plot going forward. Assassins will search the memories of their predecessors in order to find fragments of Eden, so Templars won't use them against humanity. And as their secondary goal, they will try to figure out when the next end of the world is predicted to happen, so they can prevent it. I am just saying it from the top of my head, but it seems like an easy solution to the problem. Keep in mind that I haven't played Odyssey or Valhalla, so I don't know what's gonna happen with the plot. I'm just throwing some ideas. Now, this is a spoiler section. I will talk about some main plot events and ending. If you haven't played the game and don't want to be spoiled, I would advise to skip into the next section of the video. Timestamps are in the description.
Ptolemy's men are breaking through our line.
No! Wait till I see the signal. Can't believe you trusted a woman to do something of such importance. How are the fleet to receive their orders?
Patience.
Every Assassin's Creed game loves to play with historic figures. Bayek and Aya will meet both Cleopatra and Caesar. Bayek is going to continue his pursuit of Camus Killer by finding and eliminating members of the Order of the Ancients, one by one. Aya will pledge her services to Cleopatra. This is going to place the couple in a tough situation. I said before about how passionate they were about each other. Throughout the journey they will see each other less than before. Getting closer to avenging Camus' death will make their relationship deteriorate. Aya, bound by her pledge to Cleopatra's cause. Bayek venturing to the far corners of Egypt. Before I will talk about the ending, I will just gloss over the big bad of the main plot. Is it Flavius or is it Septimius? You see, both of them are uncovered very late in the story. It means that there is not a sufficient connection between player and the antagonist. I guess that Septimius gets a little bit more attention, so players might hate him more. But Flavius is more of a cop-out. I want to say I don't mind it. You know, you don't always need to have this big, overarching story about pursuing your arch-nemesis. Especially since in real life, if those things could happen, it would be perfectly understandable for a leader of a hidden organization to remain, hidden. I also like the fact that they used Fragment of Eden in this installment as a reason to why Alexander the Great was able to conquer such a big part of the world so fast in his life. Mind-controlling populations to do his bidding. That's clever. And of course, assassins have to be part of every single big event in the history. So of course Aya delivers first blow to Caesar before Brutus. At least in this particular situation, it finally makes sense for an assassin to be there for one of the biggest assassinations in the history. So I guess I shouldn't give them a hard time for that.
They speak of Siwa.
Main story done. All of that was really solid. Well, the big buts were, let's call it, serviceable. But what is the most important for me in this story and what was left in my mind after completing the game is an origin of the Brotherhood. Do you remember when I was talking about Bayek and Aya's relationship? I claimed that it's gonna set some sort of a narrative payoff at the end. Here it is. After getting through everything, finally avenging Kemo's death, Aya and Bayek realized that their mission is not over. After one tyrant, there will come another. The Order of the Ancients is a beast of many faces. Many people linger in the shadows. Even though they still have a deep feelings for each other, the love and passion we as players have seen is still present. They decide to denounce their love, their previous lives and start something new, the Hidden Ones. A group also working from the shadows that will defend the interests of common people and will keep both the tyrants and the Order of the Ancients at bay. You can see their emotions as they part ways. Aya will lead Hidden Ones in Rome, while Bayek will try new assassins in Egypt. There's also this scene at the end of the first DLC, Hidden Ones. Aya, now calling herself Amunet, returns to Egypt for a short while to help Bayek deal with the problems in Sinai. Again, at the end we can see the similar scenario. They use their experiences to set a new rules, a creed. Symbolism is again strong here. By setting the creed, they cement the rules and strengthen the Hidden Ones, which will be future Assassin's Brotherhood. At the same time, it's the last time they see each other. Emotions are shown again. You can see that they still care for each other, but they cannot stay together. The cost is greater.
We have done good.
Maybe some of you will tell me that I'm overanalyzing it. But am I? What is the purpose of the story in games? It's not only to keep player playing, it's to provoke thought and emotions, something that books, music and movies do. I have to admit, I would never expect that Ubisoft game can still surprise me and grip me with its story. A month ago, I made the late review of Neo, and if I have to point out one standout feature that makes the game special, it would be Neo's combat system. If you would ask me, what's the standout feature of Assassin's Creed Origins, I am going to answer without hesitation, environment. By environment, I mean the whole game world. As I said before, Assassin's Creed Origins is set in ancient Egypt. Ubisoft recreated a big part of Egypt map, from Nile Delta to Siwa, from Mediterranean Sea to deserts in the south. Of course, it's scaled to sizes comfortable for the game engine, but still, the map is really big. Biomes and zones are actually quite diverse. It's not just sand and deserts. Let's not forget how fertile and lush grounds around Nile are. While traveling through Egypt, players will push through endless dunes, climb on various types of mountain ranges and rock formations. There are picturesque cliffs, lush palm forests, various farms near the river, canyons, grasslands and swamps. And everything is so rich in details. Ubisoft's graphic and environmental designers are just madly skilled. We will get to see City of Alexandria at its prime, pyramids in Giza, aqueduct near Cyrene, a lot of monumental temples and statues of gods. Also, take a look at those cities or some forts during nighttime, when torchlights and moonshine are the only sources of light. It's beautiful. Everything is recreated with so much passion and care. You can tell by simply following main street in a city. See the kids playing, tanners working, people haggling at the markets. When it comes to environment, it's a job done at the highest level, and it deserves praise. Graphically, the game looks very good. The shadows drawn from buildings and mountains, the sources of light, particle effects, god rays, everything looks terrific. Even today, 4 years after the game's release. You can really appreciate how hot air in the deserts distorts the surface of mountains far away, or how single beams of light fall inside a cave through a crack in the ceiling. Of course, by today's standards, you can find games with more advanced graphics, but AC Origins shouldn't be ashamed. Draw distance is impressive, which just invites you to use photo mode. Everything I just described is made even more magnificent by incredible level of details contained within the world. One time I was casually running through Alexandria's rooftops, and a part of the town just caught my attention. It had a different type of buildings. When I stopped to admire it, I realized how easy it would be for Ubisoft to just copy-paste 10 or 15 buildings all over the city. Instead, they took their time to distinguish such a small place from the rest of the city. Many players would overlook it, but I didn't. It grew my appreciation for the whole world design team. And by the way, this is a tannery part of the town. It was usually built by the river. I later got to know that because I took a tour in the game's Discovery Tour mode. More about it later. The little details caught my attention so many times during my playtime. Another example. Water in Lake Mareotis is brownish because the lake is surrounded by desert, so it's muddied by the sand. But the waters of Mediterranean Sea are much clearer since it's a much wider body of water. Not all animals are placed in the game to act as enemies. Some of them, like flamingos or herons, can majestically fly away when startled by the player. It adds so much to immersion and made me feel for a second like I was part of the Lion King movie. There are sandstorms in the game, and those are actual big clouds of sand that you can see from afar and you can run away from them or just run into them. Those clouds are moving. It's really nice that devs designed it this way, because a more lazy way would be for sandstorms to just spontaneously form around the player and then after some time slowly vanish. It's more believable this way. One side note. I think that it's a little bit of a lost potential that sandstorms only obstruct your vision and do nothing more. I would love to have more reasons to run away from them, like for example chipping players' health bit by bit if they would remain too long inside. If you want to see how much effort was put into the game's world, head into Discovery Tour. You will be amazed. Sound design is splendid. All the ambient noises make world more believable, especially cities. They feel more alive. Sound of swords clashing, arrows hitting shields, all different animals or even footsteps while running through mud. It's all done really well. Of course, as it is a standard to the series, most characters speak with an accent specific for their nationality. Egyptians, Greeks and Romans. They also like to use some words in their original language here and there. I always loved that part of Assassin's Creed games.
Unsanctioned tomb robbers. Imagine my surprise when our prime suspect turns up dead. I know you had your differences, so tell me, priestess.
Voiceover work is solid. I like how they muffle the voices of characters that use some sort of masks. For example, Bayek can wear a hood with a mask, and if he would talk to someone, his voice will be muffled a little bit.
Was stolen!
And if you want it back, you will pay him for his suffering, and make amends by kneeling to Serapis.
I also noticed that character voices echo through the empty chambers if there are in one. Cool stuff. What about music? It's definitely on high level, but I doubt there will be scores many people will remember from this game. Well, there is a new version of Ezio's Family, and it's really good. This is a piece that became Assassin's Creed franchise song, redone with every new release. I understand it because it's very distinct and catchy, but I always had problems with it being called Ezio's Family. It worked for Ezio, but then any of the other assassins haven't got anything connecting them to Auditore family, besides being an assassin of course. I had a revelation dawn on me while playing Hidden One's DLC of Origins. Bayek says to a new recruit that family is not always our true brotherhood. Right now, Assassin's Brotherhood are Ezio's family. And just like that, my petty problem with the title of the first rendition of the song was resolved. The game lacks in the animations department. Moving and combat animations are mostly fine. Fight animations are full of gore. Bayek could use some more finishers though, because the current ones got old really fast. Main problems arise when you focus on face animations and lip syncing. Main characters' faces are done well, for the most part. Bayek's face and his reactions are okay, but even in here you can spot some mistakes from time to time. Secondary characters and especially single quest givers are the ones lacking animations. Their lip syncing leaves a lot to be desired. I know, it stems out from trying to save some money and time, but those animations definitely could be better, because right now they just stick out and it's noticeable. There's also this one thing of Bayek running up the stairs in a bizarre way from time to time.
Hammer and tongs back, and I have to get that ugly as APAP captain off my ass.
Have I experienced any bugs or crashes? When it comes to crashes, there were none. Not a single one in over 70 hours of playtime. That's really good. I heard though that there are many players still having stuttering issues and FPS drops in the game. About bugs, I am happy to say that they were minor. Usually some random NPCs popped in during conversations with other NPCs. Sometimes your mount would appear right in front of you out of thin air when you call it.
They say if I attempt to put on the play, I will be put.
One time, during the main quest, animations of a person I was talking to completely bugged out. So there were no facial animations, and when the person was supposed to drink, their head was not in the right place. Enemy pathing sometimes breaks and makes soldiers stumble into each other or get stuck in places. But most of the time it's okay. Players' pathing is obstructed in 2 or 3 weird places where it shouldn't be. There are stairs in some temples that are very hard to get through. Bayek just stops in front of them, like there is an invisible wall. If you will try long enough, then finally you will overcome that obstacle, but it's a notable inconvenience, especially in temple in Crocodilopolis. Being an Assassin's Creed veteran, I decided to challenge game's climbing and parkour system. Many of you definitely remember times when your assassin wouldn't catch the thing you wanted them to catch or climb the right ledge. In Origins, whenever you press a dedicated button, Bayek will be in, let's call it parkour mode. If there is an obstacle in front of him, he will climb onto it. If there is a gap, he will try to jump across. If an obstacle is small, he will jump over it. So what I tried to do was to jump across the obstacles and ledges in a various weird angles and see if the game will correctly try to get through them. And the system worked perfectly. Bayek leaps at the right angle, catches the correct ledges, doesn't bug out. Well, maybe sometimes he won't do exactly what I had in mind, but those situations were so few in numbers that I would argue that they shouldn't be considered in here. And I killed myself only once while trying to do Leap of Faith, which I'm still not sure was my fault or game bugged out and didn't recognize my commands. And I noticed that mountain ranges in Sinai are less polished than the ones in main game. When I climbed those DLC mountains, Bayek was clipping through the textures a lot, while I can't remember the same thing happening anywhere in the base game. We finally made it to the part where I will analyze gameplay of Assassin's Creed Origins. In terms of general structure of the game, nothing has changed. It's a third-person action-adventure game with stealth elements that's set in an open world. I have already covered questing experience. I'm just going to add that quests, the same as other activities, are shown on the map. An overworld map is separated into regions. Those are characterized by the level range of the enemies and content you can expect to find there. Pretty standard stuff. AC Origins leans a little bit into RPG territory. While questing experience is linear and there are no choices for you to make, the enemies, acquired gear and acquired quests have their own levels. In terms of enemies, it's how strong they are. Gear level is a required level Bayek must reach in order to be able to use that gear. In terms of quests, it's a recommendation. I will admit, I'm not a fan of splitting regions by level ranges. I understand that it makes it easier to design the game and it's easier for players to navigate, but in my opinion it feels very gamey. It's just artificial and destroys immersion. Here in Origins it's important because enemies that exceed players' power by 3 to 5 levels are exceptionally stronger. When you close that power gap, then they become pushovers. Ah yes, the game is not hard. There are 4 different difficulty settings. You can change them before and after you started playthrough. I played on hard and it was mostly an easy experience. Only forts with a lot of enemies could pose a threat when I got spotted or when enemies surrounded me. So at least there were moments when I was forced to be stealthy. Which is good, I am playing an assassin, not a one-man army. Map overflowing with side content marked everywhere is a given in any new open-world Ubisoft game, especially in Assassin's Creed game. Here, it's the same. We will have those viewpoints located on towers and high cliffs that will unveil all the hidden markers in their respective area. This feature was actually heavily criticized by the fans and reviewers in the past games because side content in AC titles was usually very low effort. I can still remember Unity's Paris clustered with hundreds of loot chest markers. Those chests didn't offer anything exceptional. And if there was an activity like investigations, after you did 2 or 3 of them, you had already seen it all. The rest were the same things in different locations, just minuscule changes. So how is it here? Outside of quests that differ enough and are more developed, we will have different kinds of content. Animal lairs where you have to hunt wild beasts, enemy forts where you have to kill fort commanders and steal valuables. There are of course chests. They can be stored in old buildings, villas, underwater shipwrecks or caves. There are tombs, some of them contain small puzzles, and there's more. What's important is the fact that this time the map, while overflowing with content, is not so clustered that you can't see anything. I have a feeling that there probably aren't that many more markers in Origins when compared to previous releases. But the map is bigger, therefore it's more stretched. It's clearer to see what is where. As I said before, the world is beautiful and very diverse, so traveling from marker to marker was a joy. Another cool thing is the fact that many more activities require more engagement from the player, and they also might offer some story content. Quick example. You might find during your voyages some stone circles. They are used as observation points for the star constellations. Bayek used to tell Kemu stories about Egyptian mythology and lore while watching the stars. So each time you find a stone circle you can hear a story that Bayek told his son. Solving the star puzzle also requires player to take action. You need to match the symbol you've got to the stars on the sky. It's very easy, but it provides player with some additional content. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to do it. Also, if you complete all of the 12 stone circles, you will get an achievement and additional reward. Another example, papyrus riddles. In temples and libraries, Bayek can find a papyrus scrolls. Those contain a small riddle about where a treasure is hidden. This location is not marked on the map, so you have to find it. The description given by the riddles usually are clear enough that you can find the treasure without too much problem. The feeling of figuring out the puzzle is very rewarding, because at last you actually find something instead of being led to a marked point. Assassin's Creed Origins gives players a chance to take part in hippodrome races. It's a welcome change of pace and the visuals are quite spectacular. There is also an option to become a gladiator and fight in an arena. There are also gladiator boss fights.
Here comes another wave of combatants!
So to summarize side content, there is a lot of it. It's more developed than before. It still can get old after some time, but I wholeheartedly believe that it's more engaging than before and it will take more time to bore people out. It's a step in the right direction. One more thing about exploration. I remember being at around 30 to 35 hours into the game and I had unlocked about 60% of the base game's map. At that time I thought to myself that if the game was as big as the part that I had already unlocked, with all the content that I already did, it still would be enough for a favorable experience. But I'm glad that the game is bigger. There are some deserts that have only 2 points of interest and I love it. The point of a desert is to be empty, and traveling through that desert was not so time consuming that it would anger or bore me, but it was enough of a time investment to feel like a journey. That's really cool. In times of need, Bayek can count on his fellow friend, Senu. Senu is an eagle. We can switch to it and soar through the sky in order to get a better grasp at how big the world is. Gameplay-wise, players will use Senu mostly so they can highlight quest objectives on the map, see some rare materials or discover hidden chests or targets to kill. Senu can also highlight enemies so we will see their position through walls. Definitely a helpful feature. With some skill points spent, Senu can also distract enemies or show their patrol routes. Combat is the main part of Assassin's Creed franchise. Previous parts were using a combat system that took the camera away from the protagonist's back and placed it at a further away distance so players could get a better idea of what's going on. It used this system that parried an assassin with one of the enemies and every move we did was in reference to that particular foe. We, of course, could switch targets or decide to run away. There was also parrying, pushing enemies, and using different tools during combat. Origins aimed to reinvent the combat. The game switched to a more modern approach to combat. Camera now stays behind our character's back. We can choose to lock on a target or fight without the lock-on feature. It's very reminiscent of titles like Dark Souls. Enemy attacks are more telegraphed now, giving players more time to decide what type of action they want to take. In our disposal, there are 2 types of basic attacks. Fast attacks that deal moderate amount of damage and can be easily chained into short combos. Heavy attacks deal greater damage and can be used to knock shield of a foe away, so Bayek can hurt them. Overall, the new system gives player more control over a character during combat. You can quickly dash around targets, block or parry an attack. Quickly draw a bow during a fight in order to place an arrow between the eyes of a charging soldier. While I think that the current system is much better than the previous one, it definitely needs more work to be properly fleshed out. Combat feels clunky and slow. During pushes or dashes, camera sometimes lags behind and then slowly tries to catch up. From time to time, hits will connect in a weird way, or they won't connect when you think they should. There's a plethora of weapons to choose from. They are divided into weapon classes. Weapons of the same class use the same pool of animations. If you want to keep your distance in melee, you should try spears. If you are interested in slow, big blows, try two-handed maces or axes. You can dual-wield short swords or decide which one of the 2 sword classes suits you more. Regular swords offer approach based around critical damage, while curved swords are more about bleed damage which slowly chips enemy health down after you hurt them. Melee weapons also use the mechanic of an overpowering blow. During combat there is a meter that builds up with every attack that connects. When it reaches full bar, it allows Bayek to deal a special attack. Usually it's a single blow that deals a lot of damage. It can be used to get rid of the harder enemies and then clear the rest of the group. In case of curved swords, it slows time and lets Bayek deal a series of fast attacks, each applying bleed. Players can use skill tree to strengthen overpowering blows. Ranged weapons in the game consist of 4 bow classes. Hunter bows, that are the most classic approach to the weapon. Light bows that are able to shoot fast series of consecutive arrows. Predator bows, low ammunition count, hard-hitting arrows, and with a special ability tree perk, you can control the flight of an arrow. And then there are warrior bows that can shoot volley of arrows at multiple targets at the same time. When shooting arrows, there is this system that shows you on enemy health bars how much damage you are going to deal. It helps you aim from greater distances. It's a curious system that makes game easier, but of course takes away from skill needed to snipe the enemies. Let's be honest, the game is designed to be approachable, not hard. Because of that, it often happens that your arrows will transform into homing arrows and will chase the target's head instead of missing. I'm not sure if this is a glitch or it's intended as a helping system, but it's bizarre. Tools that can be used by Bayek are unlocked only through the skill tree. You cannot acquire them otherwise. They are standard AC stuff: sleeping darts, poison darts, fire bombs, smoke screens. Stealth in the game works pretty much the same as it always did. You can sneak past enemies, hide in haystacks or on the roofs, but most of the time you will hide in bushes and lush foliage. Origins takes away the crowds and ability to influence those crowds in order to hide. No more sitting benches, paying mercenaries, courtesans, or even pretending to talk with a group of strangers. I also feel like this time there was not even a one crazy rooftop chase that I did in my playthrough.
How often do you fight lions?
Only when Felix can get them. They are much more expensive than men volunteering for a beating.
There seems little honor in killing animals.
With all this sneaking and fighting, we should talk about the enemies. There are different types of enemies that you will recognize after spending some time in the game. Regular soldiers, soldiers with small shields, archers, archers with light bows. Then you have a meaty big boys with two-handed maces, the variant with a broad shield. There are hooded enemies with double swords that are very agile. All those variants are very reminiscent of enemy types from previous games. You always had a big heavy hitter, regular enemies, the enemy that will parry your attacks. Instead, this time, because combat is giving players more freedom, you can tackle the enemies in different ways. Parrying attack, disarming the enemies, dodging at the right moment, or just shooting them in the head with a bow. I learned close to the end of my adventure that if you have enough space for arrows, light bows just trivialize most of the fights. They are like an ancient assault rifle. Talking about enemies, we should talk about their AI. The series has a long history of AI breaking and doing multiple goofs. Well, this time it's not breaking that much. It even tries to act competent. If you shoot an enemy with a bow and other foes see the arrow but won't notice the direction from where it came, they try to hide. It's a nice touch. Of course, same as in many other open world games, the AI is abusable. Also, there is this weird decision to let player use fast travel as soon as they are out of combat. It takes away all those chase opportunities or possibilities for thrilling escape after eliminating a target. As soon as you are done and no one is fighting you, Bayek can teleport out of even the biggest enemy base. Eliminating targets in Assassin's Creed Origins will be done in two ways. Some of them behave like normal targets and they can be ambushed and one-shotted with your hidden blade. Some of them have a designated boss fight with health bars and all that jazz. I found those boss fights lacking. There are some sort of boss animations, attack wind-ups, but because the system is clunky and the game is not that hard, those fights do not carry the weight they could have. There are even some fights with soldiers raiding war elephants. While they might look interesting at first sight, they suffer from the same things as the other boss fights. Only this time the fight is drawn out because elephants are so tanky. And there are those god trials. They are presented as glitches in Animus, only to be an actual excuse to have a more supernatural boss fight. Those are the ones that are the closest to be a proper, well-designed boss encounters. One of the selling points of Assassin's Creed since its conception was parkour. The first game let you climb and interact with everything that was sticking out a little bit from the surface. But it had to be an actual object. To give it an example, if you wanted to climb a wall, you needed to look for some sort of brick sticking out a little bit, holes in the wall, things that you can grab. Climbing some of the tallest buildings was a puzzle of its own because of that. With time, the newest releases gave us more liberty with approach to parkour. In Assassin's Creed Origins, Bayek can climb almost anything, as long as we hold the parkour button. You run into the mountain wall and you don't have to look for some loose rocks or branches sticking out. Bayek will just climb it. Parkour has been streamlined. It's easier now and requires less thinking. The only buildings that still require some planning as to how to get to the top are pyramids. I don't mind this change. Because parkour was made easier, traversing mountain ranges is much easier also. There are other means of traveling: mounts, horses, camels, and even chariots. Although I do not recommend chariots, they are clunky and buggy as hell. Also, a mounted combat exists, so you can fight on top of your mount. Enemies can do it too. I found it oddly satisfying to ride across the desert, and when I saw a group of hyenas, I would charge through that group, slash and kill multiple beasts at the same time. If you want to swim, you can. Bayek is not afraid of water. He can dive really well. He can also use boats to deal with greater distances on lakes and rivers. And the game offers a small reminder of a naval combat experience in form of Aya's adventures with Foxy does. Those are short missions, but the controls of the ships are the same as it was in Black Flag. Only instead of cannons, you use archers. Inventory and leveling systems are pretty basic. As I said before, each weapon has its level at which you can use that part of gear. Outfits are strictly cosmetic and do not give any stat bonuses. The bonuses on weapons are pretty meaningless in my opinion. You will end up using the one with the highest item level because of pure damage increase. Ubisoft did a great job in describing what each statistic means and how much of an increase it gives, but since the game is not hard, you cannot actually feel those differences. The only meaningful ones will come from weapon classes, because of attack patterns they offer and swing times or preferred set of animations. Well, there are also legendary weapons and shields that offer additional bonuses in form of health gain on kill or additional poison or fire damage. Those are cool to have, but it's too little. There are also 6 parts of your gear that you can upgrade. Each part can be upgraded multiple times. Breastplate gives more HP, Hidden Blade improves assassination damage, Quiver increases the arrow count. There are upgrades for both general melee and bow damage. If you want to enhance some of those stats, you need a crafting materials that you can get from wild animals, chests, or by killing escorts. Each time Bayek will level up, he will gain 1 ability point to spend. Ability tree is pretty basic. It has 3 main branches: ranged, melee, and tools branch. In there, you can get access to new combat tools, such as sleep darts, spread poison on corpse, so it will then affect alerted guards. Ranged branch offers the skills like ability to control arrow shot from predator bow, slowing time after killing enemy with headshot, slowing time while aiming in the air, or simply by increasing damage of each consecutive shot of light bows. Melee branch is focused on upgrading overpowering attacks. You can also learn how to pair with your shield, or you can make your fast attacks combo longer. As you can see, those are not only boring number increases. Ability tree offers also a new ways to actively participate in combat, and that will always be a big advantage in my book. On the other side, let's make it clear. All of the things offered here are actually really basic when it comes to RPGs. While it might be a step up for AC franchise, it's nothing new in terms of general industry. So, yay, good for you, but try to do even better next time. With this in mind, I want to conclude this part. Unfortunately, while I have big hopes for AC Odyssey, I have to admit that I follow industry news, and when a big game launches, I try to vaguely get to know about its reception. Based on what people say, I am afraid that while Origins finally took a step in the right direction, we might be in for a new age of stagnation in the franchise. I hope to be proven wrong. let me just briefly touch on the DLCs for the game. I will start with the free DLC, a Discovery Tour, which is a mode in a game where player can't get hurt or even attacked, and the sole purpose of this mode is education. So we are presented with this overwhelming amount of tours to take, each talking about different aspects of ancient Egypt's life, architecture and beliefs. Those tours take from 3 to 20 minutes. This is pretty much a museum tour in the game with a great voiceover and additional photos. Narrator talks both about the history and sometimes add a note why the studio decided to place certain building or a feature in that particular place. It increases the appreciation for the game devs and also you can learn a lot.
Of cattle, donkeys, pigs, and dogs. Dromedary are thought to have been introduced during the Persian invasion.
First paid DLC is called The Hidden Ones and tells the story about first years of Assassin's activity in Sinai Peninsula. It already starts quite strong because it offers a new zone. Sinai is not too big, but it's a considerable size for a DLC, especially one made by Ubisoft. Side content here is on the same level as it's in the base game. As a highlight for the side activities, I'll point out Walls of the Ruler, a great, maze-like fort in the hills, with high-level guards, many captains and loot chests, quite hard to penetrate. As a downside of this DLC, I have to point out its state. There's definitely less polish here than in the main game, clipping through walls, missing textures here and there. And the whole zone is a big mountain range, so technically it's smaller than it seems to be. The story in Hidden Ones is quite good. It offers a closure to some plot threads that started in Egypt. One thing though, the last boss could use 2 more quests to actually be better fleshed out so players would care more. Second DLC, Curse of the Pharaohs, is much better. It's spacious for a content pack. Thebes are beautiful, but where the DLC shines is in the hidden zones. Yes, the map you see at first, it's not the only place you will visit. I am not going to spoil it, let's just say that I have never expected this level of artistry from Ubisoft designers. Those guys outdid themselves. And in terms of polish, this DLC is keeping up with the details and quality of the base game. A job well done. Keep in mind though, that it touches on more supernatural elements from Bayek's story, so not everyone will be pleased with this direction, but in my opinion it's definitely worth it. In this part, I will check out the latest 200 reviews on Steam in order to see if I agree with other players' opinions. I just want to point out that I don't consider my point of view as a superior one. I am willing to consider any opinion as valid, of course, as long as they are well argumented. So at the time of release of this video, the game sits at 86% approval score out of more than 65,000 user reviews. With that high approval count, let's check positive reviews first and then I'll try to see the negative feedback people leveraged against the game. The positives. For some reason I noticed that many people classify this game as an RPG. In my opinion, Origins is not yet a fully realized RPG title. Game is getting an enormous amount of praise for its depiction of ancient Egypt. Graphics and lighting also receive a fair share of admiration. Many people agree that combat might feel off and that it's different from previous titles. The game's story and especially main character are divisive. Some users find it great and immersive while others cannot connect with Bayek. I saw someone even calling him a sim.
Forget about them.
Well, the snake has many heads. Those heads make up the order.
The snake is the man who killed my son.
It is not so simple.
What are they talking about?
I don't know. They must know something.
Let's look here. This user points out how he likes the plot and side quest. Then this person talks about combat system. You can see a claim that there is a learning curve. I noticed that some reviews were warning players that they will have to get used to the fight mechanics. And that's how I would call it, getting used to. Because the learning curve is not big in here. It's more about getting timing of your animations right and not mindlessly spamming buttons. Although I guess you can do that on easier difficulties. On the hindsight, if you get the timing and movement of your dodges correctly, then you can reliably deal critical damage to the enemies even throughout prolonged fights. And of course, I agree with this reviewer's sentiment about massive map and some story details that translate really well into other games. In the latter part, the reviewer points out technical problems of the game. I will talk about it when I'll get to negative opinions. This is the review I agree with. It praises Bayek's charisma and character. Also, it points out one cool thing that I thought of for a second. Members of the Order of the Ancients were presented really well. Their heinous deeds made me feel no remorse while killing them. But one more quest for each one of them to flesh out their characters even more would be appreciated.
To right your wrong.
I die my work unfinished. So close, so very close to ushering in the perpetual rule of the strong.
Now the negatives. As you can see, the technical issues dominate this part. Frame drops, not being able to launch the game, stutters. It's persistent enough through the negative reviews that there has to be some merit to it, even though I had literally zero problems. And of course people voice out their hate for the Ubisoft launcher. Believe me, if I could launch the game without it, I would do it. As I expected, there are users that don't like the game repetitiveness, which is understandable, but I cannot agree with this criticism fully, since it is an actual upgrade for the series in terms of content quality. And about those technical issues, there are actually developers actively trying to reach out to people in order to help them with their problems. That's a commendable dedication and it's a big plus for them.
Bayek. This is the moment we've longed for.
Now this is the part where I will talk about in-game achievements. I'm an achievement hunter. I usually try to get as much of them as I can without having to replay the game too many times or without sinking in unreasonable amounts of time. Assassin's Creed Origins is a very relaxing game when it comes to getting achievements. I am even going to say it has my favorite structure of getting trophies. First of all, there are no missable ones, but in order to get 100% completion, player is required to own both paid DLCs, Hidden Ones and the Curse of the Pharaohs. Of course, there are typical points to get for pushing through main storyline. Then there are a couple of achievements for some side missions. AC was always a game inviting completionists. Big maps with a lot of markers to visit. A majority of those markers will require players to complete some sort of activity in order to consider the place as completed. It can be looting a chest, killing a captain on a ship, killing the biggest animal in a pack, finding a scroll, or maybe meditating in some hard to access place. There are achievements for doing some of those activities for the first time, and then there is an achievement for completing all of those in the whole base game map. That's the trophy that will require players to sacrifice the greatest amount of time. For me, it was not a chore, it was actually really fun, mainly because I just enjoyed traveling through the game's world. Some of the achievements will require getting specific skills in a skill tree. I think that's the only part that might slow a potential oblivious player. There are 3 nodes in a skill tree designed to be an endgame point sink. If a player will get to them early without spreading points in other nodes, it potentially might lead to a situation of them reaching max level and sinking most skill points into those nodes. There is no option to reset the skills, so in that case player might need to slowly grind some more ability points, which might get tedious if that player already completed everything in the game. This is really a hypothetical situation since the Origins offers a lot of skill points to get, but I guess it might happen. Now, what are the more fun trophies with weird conditions to meet? Those are the ones that are the most fun. I just want to say right away that they are really easy to get once you just commit to actually doing them. So my favorite ones would be doing a leap of faith from an obelisk in the first DLC between 10 and 12 AM in game time. It's fun because an obelisk is a sun clock, so we can see when you have to jump. Another cool trophy was to tame a lion and bring it to the crocodile. There's an achievement to run away 3 times from a charging hippos. I did it at the start of my adventure only to realize later that most players get it either way because you will aggro some hippos during your travels without care to actually fight them, so it will count as running away from them. And some hints. First, don't sell your trinkets right away. I know these are just junk items designed to be sold for money, but there is a trophy for selling 100 trinkets at the same time. So just get 100 and then sell them at the same time. When it comes to overheated achievement, it will require you to take bike into the desert during the heat of the day and just stay there or run in circles. The illusions that he will see are random. You need to wait for a specific one. Dark clouds raining scarabs. Don't mistake it with the locust swarm, that's not the same. Once you will experience the scarab rain, the achievement will unlock, but since it's RNG based, you might need to sink some time in the desert. Assassin's Creed franchise is plagued by stagnation, reusing ideas, maps with clusters of markers, and side content that quickly gets tedious. Origins does not reinvent the series, but everything it offers is better and feels fresh. Combat system, while clunky, gives players more freedom of movement and a little bit of technical ways of fighting enemies. Side content might get boring for some people. It wasn't boring for me. The highlight of this installment is definitely the depiction of ancient Egypt. It's so well crafted and richly detailed. Bike's story is the first AC plot that gripped me since Black Flag. I really liked it. DLC number 1, Hidden Ones. A decent package. New zone, 3 to 4 hours of main storyline, good amount of side content that uses the ideas from base game, a little bit less polished, nice closure for the story of the main game. Buy at sale. DLC number 2, Curse of the Pharaohs, definitely much better DLC. Bigger and more diverse new zone. More side content, some evolved ideas from the main game, outstanding visuals. I recommend this game. Hey, I wanted to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, press the thumbs up and maybe leave a comment. If you didn't like it, then press thumbs down and definitely leave a comment. I'm very curious what you guys think. Those videos will not come as fast as I want, mainly because I have a job that takes a lot of time. I also have to finish the game, then write script and edit the vid. It takes a lot of time, but I'm having a great fun while doing it, so I will continue. I also have some ideas about videos other than late reviews. I want to talk about my history of gaming and about nerd culture. And my question for you: what is the reason for you to come back to Assassin's Creed franchise? Are you the one that buys every new release? If yes, then why? What would you say is the biggest pull of those games? So that's all for me. Bye.